Welcome to New England. I'm your tour guide, Michael Ferrari, and we will be visiting each state in the oldest region in America, and we'll see what this place offers as the closest thing to Europe we have available here in America. The only differences we have from most Europeans is that we are actually smart, our food isn't garbage like fish and chips and soda bread, but the accents here are, in my opinion, the most unattractive accent in the US.
Any ER would have an AH at the end.
You gotta park the car and hop the and give the guy a quarter for some chowder.
There's a big hurricane coming from the left coast, but don't worry.
We gotta go up to Bar Harbor to get some lobster supper.
They're starting with the nice weather. It's starting to get crowded down there, and I checked with the DPW Parks Department.
But all that matters is that we won the war against Great Britain, where they blew a 13-colony lead. So, join me today as we tour the oldest and most historic part of America. I'm here at my home state and the crown jewel of New England, Massachusetts. I knew I was back in Mass, the great place, once the second I stepped on foot here, I saw a lot of road work being done. If you don't know much about Massachusetts, it's really just education, central, and prehistoric America. Like, behind me you have the Mayflower. But if you're into more exciting history, let me introduce you to the rock that the Pilgrims landed on when arriving to America, Plymouth Rock. It's now just a rock with a number on it. Yeah, don't pull out your camera too fast. I'm here at the town of Sandwich. There's not a lot that really goes on here that's too special in my heart, except the police cars here say Sandwich Police on them. I was also told that they really like white bread. Now, a lot of people say that Americans don't have culture outside of shopping at Target and Walmart, but I think New England has a very particular, very interesting type of culture. We have a very hard-working, hustler type culture, us and I guess New York. Though we have a very hard-working culture here, from our teachers to students to farmers, people in the trades, goes on. We are seen as not the nicest people in America. New Englanders are also seen as, rude, bitter, sometimes cold, even a little gritty. But why? Because fuck you. That's why. But we get away with all of that because we have the best education here in this region across the US, so suck it. But even if we're wicked smart, we're terrible drivers. One last thing I'd like to add about New England before we move on is that we absolutely love our sports here. Even if the Patriots dynasty and Brady moved on, we still love the Patriots, even if Mac Jones isn't our guy. We love the Red Sox. The 2004 playoff season will never go to waste. The Celtics are pretty neat to watch, even if they forced Game 7 and then shat the bed once it happened. Game 7 was the other night, and it was not the greatest ever. What do you think will be the next steps for the Celtics? What would you do?
Well, first, I'd like to thank the Celtics for even giving us a Game 7 because we all know that wasn't even supposed to happen. The next step for the team is, I think, just realizing that they are a championship team. They just have to capitalize in those moments that are the most important, which is the playoffs. As we put a lot on Tatum's shoulders, one thing we have to remember, it's still always a team game.
And we love the Bruins, even though they keep breaking our hearts yet again. We love them, and we love Tom Brady. Tom Brady, it was like, to us, he's like Spartacus. And we're the Spartans watching him perform. And you have other friggin' legends. You got David Ortiz, Bill Russell, God rest his soul, Larry Bird, the list goes on. I'm here at my home state, Maine. I think Maine is an underrated gem. And I'm not saying that because I live here. I'm saying this because I've been here for a while. We are statistically the safest state in all of America, so I find it pretty funny when rappers here claim that they are shooters. It gets cold here in Maine. Actually, it gets really cold. But what does that bring? Well, there's skiing up north. Orono has a really big hockey community down there, and there's sledding, snowmobiling, winter stuff. But with those cold and grueling winters comes nice and very hot summers. From there, you could go to Bar Harbor or visit Old Orchard Beach. Or you could go up to Acadia and go hiking. Even though this place has the best of both worlds, I'd say Mainers are wicked xenophobic, not because of where you're from or where you are, it's because you're not from Maine. Also, people, especially in northern Maine, strongly dislike Massachusetts and most of southern Maine. There's 2 districts. That's why the electoral votes here don't go all to the winner. It's usually split between northern and southern Maine. Maine's politics are really wonky. We're one of the very few states who elect independents in office. We've had Angus King, who is a very famous independent, who's been with us since like the 90s. Also, Stephen King, Anna Kendrick, Patrick Dempsey, and Aaron Andrews. They are seen as mythical beings here in Maine because they're the only Mainers who really made it big. One last thing about Maine is our national bird is a lobster. Whenever you see a postcard, it's always a lighthouse with a lobster, but like most of Maine is actually forested. It's the most forested state out of all of America, so that's why we have a moose as our backup. I'll give you a beat just first, and we'll just hear it off. So.
I love the way you created that beat off the brain. Sounds like you come all the way from Maine, through Augusta and also Portland. The way your improv with me is gorgeous. I appreciate you setting up the tripod. Had to hit you with a freestyle, oh my God. And brother, you're the greatest correspondent because you always do it from the heart. You got the consciousness, headed out of college. Brother, you always bring us that knowledge. So thank you for coming from a beautiful Ponderosa down in Maine. You don't have to explain. You rep your chapter through that fraternity. And brother, you are going to earn God's grace because you're doing it for the human race.
I'm now in the state of Connecticut, owned by ESPN. Connecticut is another small state here in New England, but, you know, there's some stuff here. You got Yale, UConn, who just came off a national championship. You have some pretty cool museums, and you have the exhilarating Foxwoods Casino, where Native Americans own it, and they can finally have a chance to take a stab back at their oppressors by making them lose all their money. George W. Bush, Mark Twain, and Samuel Colt were born here, and Yale was also the first ever college and university throughout the United States to offer its attendants a PhD. Connecticut was the first ever U.S. state to have a speed limit at a whopping 12 miles per hour. I guess they had to add a speed limit because they saw how fast people were leaving Hartford. Vermont's known for a few things. Ben & Jerry's, Cabot cheese, agriculture, Bernie Sanders. I would say maple syrup, but Maine maple syrup and Vermont maple syrup are like the same thing. Like I've mentioned about Maine, that Maine is one of the very few states that votes for independents into office, and Vermont is the other one. You may have heard of independent Bernie Sanders. But if we're going to be honest, Bernie Sanders is as independent as O.J. Simpson is innocent. Vermont's a great place to take a hike and see the foliage and check out the agriculture. But you know where else you could do that? New Hampshire and northern Maine. I'm here at what seems to be the most neglected state in all of New England, New Hampshire. For most New Englanders, it's the 10-minute drive from Maine to Massachusetts. But this place is pretty weird. As of 2023, it is the only state in New England that only allows just the recreational use of cannabis, and the first ever snowmobile was built here. Fascinating. Also, New Hampshire is the only state that counts votes early during election season on election day because they are the first primary in America next to Iowa. Like I said, New Hampshire is it is the most neglected state out of all of New England, but it still has the third biggest population out of all the states, and a lot of that has to do with the zero sales tax that this state provides, and it also probably has to do with the millions of Packies littered across the state. I've never really visited New Hampshire, but if you ever do, just keep driving. I'm here at the land of Daddy's Money, Rhode Island, Massachusetts' backyard and dog. I really hope a kid in a bright polo shirt doesn't have his dad sue me for that joke. Rhode Island is the smallest state in the United States. And honestly, it should be part of Connecticut, really. It looks like it was part of Connecticut. It looks like it was connected then cut from Connecticut. This place is basically just one big boat dock with stores, and no one would know this place existed if it wasn't for Family Guy. Rhode Island used to have the longest state name out of all the United States until Massachusetts took it in 2020. Just another reason for Massachusetts to screw over the rest of New England. I also just found out that cap guns are considered firearms here in Rhode Island. It was really weird to find that out, and I kind of questioned it until I realized why. I mean, just the sound of a cap gun would confuse the whole state thinking it's an actual gunshot. I want to thank all of you for watching this video on my tour through New England. I had a lot of fun, and I had a lot of rage trying to get through traffic here. I want to thank you guys again for watching this. Let me know what state is your favorite in New England. If you're new here, please follow, like, share with a friend, and please let me know which state or region in America I should visit next. I want to thank you guys again for watching another tour. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.